Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I feel a bit like a bit out of place with professors and dames, but here we go. So yeah, look, as you know, James, I'm a recovered addict myself. It was a 12-year, £500,000 addiction, um, and from that, I tried to raise awareness through the accessible use of humour and entertainment, mainly targeting the demographic that I choose to sort of in reach or help, which is primarily young men between 18 and 34. Now, I don't know if I'm using the phrase correctly, but really what I'm trying to do is help the next generation or help prevent the next generation in a sort of nudge theory way. So I'll let you be the judge of whether 36 is a young man, but probably not. But young men are often disconnected, and I certainly was, for various reasons, a lot of reasons you've touched upon today anyway. They're struggling with mental health and they really just want to feel something. So they might not drink as much as the older generation. They might be more body conscious or go to the gym more, but gambling is something they can and do because they perceive it to have less harm. So apologies for a crude analogy, but the Ukraine and Russia thing at the moment is an information war as well. And the way I see it, as say, apologies for the analogy, but we're almost in an information war with the bookies. Now, like it or not, and I obviously don't like it, but accounts like Paddy Power's Twitter are really, really good. They're brilliant. We don't obviously agree with what they're trying to do and stuff, but they're undeniably brilliant. So I'm trying to disrupt really the whole model of Gamblers Anonymous, which for different reasons than Stacey, I also didn't work. Not for me anyway. I'm not, I know it's helped hundreds, thousands of people, but sitting in a room and talking and sharing, and then leaving the room and not being able to talk or discuss what you've discussed is really sort of anti the way I think that young people want to live their life, really. It's just not how young people operate anyway. But within an addiction, to me, that secrecy just reinforces stigma. So I'm trying to sort of present a counter narrative to, the pretty undeniable fact that, if you're a lad, you turn on the radio in the morning, you scroll through Twitter, you're on Instagram, you watch football or any sport, you're being peppered all day to have a bet. So if there can be a counter narrative to that, then that's great. So, because as well as that, then if you, even if you do enter recovery is so much harder in the age of social media, because Paddy Power, through the sort of soft power, they'll post memes about anything, related to gambling or not. It's so much harder to do because they're always there. So if people are flicking through their feeds and then I'm there or Stacey's there, or there's a chap called Harry on Twitter, TikTok too, if people see us free as well as Paddy Power and the like, it's going to help. So I think it's about positive content for me. And obviously, I've not come on to an NHS event to criticise anybody, but for me, health messaging can often be a bit too po-faced or a bit too serious, which obviously isn't to say it shouldn't be because of the topic and the subject. But I am a recovered addict of 12 years, and to confront gambling addiction for me, I just feel like the whole sort of conversation needs to be more current, more relevant, and more humorous. More entertaining. Sticking posters up in surgeries is great, but I am talking about social media. As I say, we need to play and beat the bookies, at their own game. In my experience, and from my sort of background, I work in sales, I'm sporty. A lot of the young men that I speak to and have reached out to me, they're all really competitive. Now, if they see, obviously, really well-meaning, but really earnest and really sad messaging all the time, they don't want to be that guy. They want to relate to someone who, is positive and is who they are, because, like with Stacey and myself, you never wanted to admit it. Even though you knew it. I always remember I knew I was addicted after about 18 months. And it took 12 years to confront it. And partly that, I think, is possibly and I believe it's an illness as well, but partly that is, the medicalization or the sort of victimhood or stigma and stuff, which I think puts people off confronting it, because they're competitive anyway, a lot of the time, which is why they fell into addiction in the first place. And they're too competitive with themselves to even admit they are. So again, going back to the social media stuff, one of my proudest moments is when a lad reached out. He plays football. I'm in Cornwall. He lived in Lincolnshire, and he reached out and said, look, through the content, through your videos, I was in your changing room, and I said, he had the confidence to tell the whole changing room of the football team that he had a problem. And then by the end of the session, they had all supported him and they'd all registered with CamStop. So it's that kind of sharing, which I think people want to do. So shareable content obviously is what drives social media, and particularly on TikTok. That's how it's got a very sophisticated algorithm, and it's all based on sharing of content and stuff. So people see my content and they will share it. They will send it to their friends, their partners, colleagues. And it could be someone sending it to their partner to say, look, I don't think this is you. Or it could be someone sending it to their partner, saying, look, this is me. And it's an easier way of, broaching the topic rather than sitting down and, having that conversation, which they may not be ready to do. They could send it in a little text, almost like a meme, to their, boyfriend or girlfriends. And that could be a way to get the conversation flowing. So the figures James has put up there are, that's from the last 3 months. So, 20,000 shares of the video, 7 million views, and that's just in 60 days. So it's clearly the virality of the content shows to me that people do want to talk about it, and they don't want to feel the weight of stigma by feeling they can't talk about it. Now, if you remove the shame and the stigma of talking about the gambling addiction, you will naturally get through to people more, because whether you like it or not, and obviously I'm not suggesting it's a good thing in any way, but young people do live their life on social media. Now, the people living their life on social media, like every story we all know, Instagram's fake, etc. But a lot of the lads having a good time, spending money at the weekends, they're also waking up on Sunday morning crippled with anxiety or depression because they've just lost another, 100 quid, 200 quid, 500 quid gambling. So because gambling makes you an expert liar, the more you can share it to embrace being honest is helpful. So TikTok, for those who don't know, which appreciate maybe a few, it's exploded in popularity. I think it's been the most downloaded app on Apple since 2020. And my TikToks have had over 25 million views. So it's obviously with no, budget or ad spend, that's reaching more people than, possibly the official NHS campaigns or, whatever else would do in a whole year. And it is mainly young men I reach. 89% of my followers are men. You can't see, to my knowledge, the demographic age ranges on TikTok, but from just sort of observing the people who contact me, generally it's between 18 and 34, and 89% of the people that follow me or watch my videos are men, and that's the crux of I think why it works and why Stacey's stuff works. Like Matt Gaskell mentioned earlier, used the phrase which is bang on. He said, gambling addicts, we're not a homogenous group. So I know that I can't reach the people that Stacey's reaching, and to a degree, Stacey can't reach the people I'm reaching either. But that's the point. And again, that is what social media is. Now, the fragmentation of media, the segmentation of content. People have so many options and so many different avenues to consume stuff. We can get messages out which are, and me and Stacey will both know this. Like she's, part of the messages earlier. We know we're helping people. And obviously I direct people towards, GAM care, etc. Because that's how my recovery started myself. So I called GAM care. They arranged counselling sessions for me, which were to a point useful. But there was no aftercare, there was no follow-up whatsoever. Nothing, So if I had relapsed a week after my last session, then nobody would have known about that. So I, who am I? I'm just, I'm not a medical professional, so I don't have the answers, but the the in reach that my accounts have, hopefully provides some questions.